Welcome everybody to the first episode of Fantasy News from our new home, hence the shotgun setup. We just moved in on Saturday, and I promise by the end of the week I will have a proper studio for you. But in the first bit of Fantasy News we're going to be getting into this week, I got engaged.
LOTR, will you marry me? You'll marry me? You didn't even look at the ring.
That is right, the first day in our new house on the front porch, I got down on one knee and asked Kayla Torreson to marry me, and she said, of course. I'm an engaged goblin. Is there another term for that? I'm a had goblin, acclaimed goblin, I don't know. We have a whole lot to do to get our kind of final setup ready for you all, so if we're a bit more bare bones in the content for a couple of weeks, please bear with us. But to celebrate us moving in and the start of the best season, fall and or Halloween, depending how you look at it, we are also dropping the Halloween merch line this month with a TBR lifelong reader rising from the dead to keep reading t-shirt. I absolutely love it. This is my favorite design Kayla has ever had done for the channel. It's spooktacular. So if you'd like to support us, help us upgrade the studio even further, or just like the design, check out the merch store at danielbgreen.com and buy it while supplies last. Now, without any further ado, it's time for your first fantasy news from an engaged goblin. And I guess as a gift for me, Sanderson did not drop the Cosmere news this week super late on a Monday evening, but instead put it out in the morning. And now we have gotten to see the interior art for Winds and Truth, with art by Donato Giancarlo and Miranda Meeks. Some of this we've, I think, seen before, but it's great to see it finally included in a hardback edition. And I know the first couple chapters of Wind and Truth are out there. I'm not a reading the first couple chapters early kind of guy. I'm sure I could do a video on it. It would get views, whatever. But I prefer when I sit down to read a book to do the full thing. And I'm absolutely going to be doing that for Wind and Truth. The last Stormlight book was not my favorite. It was still a good book, but I'm hoping to see this final leg of like a long Sanderson arc for the Stormlight Archive have like the mother of all Sanderlanches. That's where my expectation is, and I don't think I'm going to be proven wrong. But in terms of books that are already out there, we also have a new release from Orbit, and that is because they're putting out a special box set of N.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth series. The 5th season, The Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky, are going to be released in a deluxe collector's edition, with art by Planet Plinto and illustrations by Justin Cherry. They will ship on November 19th. And shamefully, I only have paperbacks of the Broken Earth series, so I might actually be getting these ones, especially because they're having like a 20% off deal. I'm not paid to talk about this. I just talk about book releases, and because I'm considering this one, I included the fact there's a sale. There's no sponsor in this video.
I don't need your money.
But if I'm going to be talking about special editions, I need to talk about one that I was originally like kind of interested in, but then I saw the price tag and I was like, no, because there's a limit, in my opinion, unless you're getting like a first edition of a super classic, to how expensive books should be. And we just had Curious King release its Fall of Hyperion by Dan Simmons with some interior art coming in a box, and a book that does look very, very beautiful, and 300 copies for the General Deluxe. But for these single books, for the Standard Deluxe, you will be paying £630, $650 if there's any left after it's published. And for the lettered edition, you will be paying £2,250, or after publication, £2,400. And excuse me.
Did you say 1,000?
Do not get me wrong. I love special edition books. Fucking clearly. But that's a nopey dopey, dude. The pre-order information says, following this announcement, we will be contacting relevant rights holders with a purchase link for their copy of Fall of Hyperion. They will have until Friday, October 18th at 21 BST to take up their rights, and any copies not taken up will be put up for public pre-order. The date of the public pre-order will be Sunday, the 20th of October. I could pay my mortgage this month, or credit to the artist, Jamie Jones, looks absolutely brilliant. There's apparently going to be 8 full color pages, as well as 25-ish black and white illustrations. And hey, if this price range is your thing, no hate. I don't even necessarily mean hate to Curious King. It's just when I saw that price tag, I puckered, and I'm a little bit jealous. I do love Hyperion. It could be jealousy driving me. I'm willing to admit that. But in a more casual release news, we also had the cover drop for The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst, and art by Lulu Chen. Turlu Perna broke the law because she was lonely. Relatable. She cast a spell and created a magically sentient spider plant. As punishment, she was turned into a wooden statue and tucked away into an alcove in the north reading room of the Great Library of Elysium. This should have been the end of her story. Yet one day, Turlu wakes in the cold of winter on a nearly deserted island full of hundreds of magical greenhouses. She's starving and freezing, and the only other human on the island is a grumpy gardener. To her surprise, he offers Turlu a place to sleep, clean clothes, and the freshly baked honey cakes, at least until she's ready to sail home. But Turlu can't return home and doesn't want to. The greenhouses are a dream come true, each more wondrous than the next. When she learns the magic that sustains them is failing, causing the death of everything within them, Turlu knows she must help, even if that means breaking the law again. This is described as a cozy fantasy, and that sounds absolutely lovely, but for some reason, with the way that was written, I was just picturing like editing like Bad Boys style trailer, like, oh no, the greenhouses are dying. I guess we have to break the law for the right reasons. And this will be coming July of 2025, and sounds just wonderful. What does it say about like current stress levels in the world that the idea of reading a book about someone just tending greenhouses? I'm like, that sounds like a wonderful escape. But moving away from book release news and instead talking about book adaptation news, we have had a pre-launch page put up for the upcoming tabletop RPG adaptation of Terry Pratchett's Discworld. A city like Ankh-Morpork was only 2 meals away from chaos at the best of times. Adventures of Ankh-Morpork, the Discworld tabletop role-playing game, catapults you into the streets of the big Wahoonie, and once you've dusted yourself off, you can adventure to your heart's content, with imagination and some shiny math rocks at your fingertips. Your story on the disc awaits. All it says is launching soon, but if there's any fantasy world that I'm surprised does not already have a tabletop RPG that definitely deserves one, TTRPG-ing Discworld seems just like pinnacle fun times with friends, so yeah, most likely going to be backing this one. I just want to see what system they're going to be using. That's not on here though. It doesn't have the markings of like the D&D 5e skinning stuff, so I'm gonna assume it's not that. And I am thrilled to say that the production for season 2 of Frieren has officially begun, and I'm going to be watching and reviewing this on the channel here, absolutely. If you have not watched my Frieren video, I highly recommend you do after watching the show, or even beforehand. It's kind of spoilerish free. But this anime, and I'm assuming the manga too, feels like a warm cup of coffee on a cool rainy day with a blanket wrapped around you. It is low stakes, character-dependent, beautiful fantasy storytelling. Frieren is one of my new favorite characters of the year, and the commentary around time itself through the lens of an elf's life is poetic as fuck. Definitely watch it. Check out my video if you want to see me go crazy about it. Next news. Twitch is apparently trying to lure in some booktubers or book talkers, whichever platform you have, because they have added a category on the platform titled Writing and Reading, so that you can do some reading and writing alongs, not just under the just chatting category, which, yeah, I think this is not quite in the territory of over breaking down the categories yet, and feels necessary, because as someone who's been writing on the just chatting section of Twitch before, back when I Twitch streamed more, there were some people showing up clearly not getting like, this is writing reading time. And so yeah, I like that. And it seems like a good way for people like myself who jump over there to more concisely find the audiences who might be interested in them, because there's still a lot of people who watch me here who apparently just like don't know I stream on Twitch. Quick note though, this doesn't mean you can suddenly like play audiobooks. The copyright rules are remaining unchanged. But let's digitize ourselves to talk about some gaming news, because apparently Starcraft is once again trying to develop a shooter for the franchise after 2 previous attempts have failed. Now, you may have seen this headline a few places, but there's a reason I'm not putting it into the title of this fantasy news, despite it being pretty big news for the real-time strategy and shooter sci-fi fans out there. And that's because this news is coming from a podcast where someone who's releasing a book says, as long as it's not canceled, as far as I know, this is being developed right now. But he does end by saying specifically, StarCraft is not dead at Blizzard. So here is me telling you this story, and here is me handing you a grain of salt. Take it as you will. And then in some Lord of the Rings news, which there might be 8 to 80 fans out there of that currently watching, a Kickstarter has been launched for the first ever stained glass art you can buy if you're a Lord of the Rings fan to decorate your window. I do want to caveat this story by saying this was originally planned to be a sponsor, which is why you see I actually have the product in my hand right now, but I like the product so much, and this is a small company that's currently based out of Asheville that has been directly affected by what is going on. I instead decided to say, hey, let me just cover it in Fantasy News as a regular story, because like, it is really damn good, and I probably would have anyway if it had come across my radar, to be honest. So no talking points or anything, but this is something cool going on with a company that's affected by something bad, and I can officially say I had the product in my house. There is actual stained glass in my house. Here's the two side by side. Make the judgment call for yourself, and I think it looks pretty fun. That's a weird situation, but like, you know, I wanted to help them out.
It's a hurricane.
I know.
But this takes me to the story of the week I am most interested in, and it's because I somehow didn't know this was in development. Apparently, Greta Gerwig is working on a Narnia film. How that flew under my radar, I don't know. Did I previously cover it even? I am forgetful. But in addition to the news that the Little Women and Lady Bird director is now taking on a fantasy epic in a modern lens that I'm really interested to see. Hashtag John Malkovich for Mr. Tumnus, just saying.
Me the fucking floppy or the CD or whatever the
Saoirse
Ronan is apparently going to play one of the lead roles. She is clearly too old to be playing one of the kids, as long as they're keeping the like ages there, and they're starting with The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is apparently, important to note, not confirmed. But after seeing her take on the role she has, I'd actually be interested to seeing her be the White Witch. Am I alone in that? I think she could nail like a serious, sinister villain. That'd be cool. And we also know that Louise Partridge has been cast in an undisclosed role as well. So this is one of like the big boys of epic fantasy getting a female-directed adaptation with already some substantial acting talent behind it. Whether or not it's going to lean into the initial themes from C.S. Lewis around Christianity, or maybe pull away from them, add some commentary, I don't know. But all of which are above, as long as they're done with Greta Gerwig's ambitious style, have potential to be really interesting. There is the additional claim on this that this is not just going to be one Narnia film, but actually two. I'm always hesitant with those additional like things tied in, because sometimes studios just lob that kind of stuff on there to get names involved or make it seem bigger than it is. So I'd love for it to be the case. I'd love for it to be so successful that if it is the case, it is allowed to happen. This could be like a Dune situation where we're getting like a more serious adaptation. But for now, I'm interest locked in. I'm not even that big of a Narnia fan, but the idea of Greta Gerwig taking it on is fascinating. Though I wonder how hardcore Narnia fans feel about that. But in news that's just, yeah, parody is dead, and we're watching the parodies of past just become reality or embraced by the things they were satirizing, Robocop is reportedly getting a TV series set over at Amazon with Peter Oʊʻkeɪ as showrunner and James Wan to produce. And if you have seen Robocop, Amazon? I mean, they did The Boys. It makes, sure, on branding for them. What is life anymore? Who knows? This has apparently been being kicked around since Amazon acquired MGM, which obviously had the rights of Robocop. Where this will end up, how it will look, I have absolutely no idea, and I am interested in a less sincere way than I was for the Gerwig Narnia film. I'm interested in this in like, what? Whereas the Gerwig, I was interested in like, And in sad news, the Chucky TV series over on the Sci-Fi Channel has officially been canceled after 3 seasons. I do want to say though, if there's one thing we know about Chucky,
I always come back.
If you're a Chucky fan or a horror fan in general, this is debatably top 3 Chucky things we've ever gotten. Highly recommend the show, and it didn't end in an infuriating point. So still worth checking out, and I believe we will see more of the Chuck in the future. And in probably the most generally impactful story of the day, Marvel and DC no longer hold the copyright for the term superhero. If you're not aware, yes, things within the superhero genre could not use that term unless they came from Marvel and DC, because in my opinion of a copyright that should have never been given in the first place. It's literally a genre. Anyway, from now on, you might actually start seeing people outside of the main 2 dogs of comic books start to use that term.
fascinating.
But now let's go ahead and get into the trailer news for the week. Just banging them on out in quickie news style, we had the trailer drop for Ronja, the Robber's Daughter, Part 1. Apparently based off a Nordic fairy tale, this seems to be more in the style of Brothers Grimm than Disney realizations for a fairy tale, and it's going to be on Netflix. And it is labeled Part 1 and in a foreign language, so assuming we will get a Part 2, no we won't, Netflix will cancel it, we all know that. And finally, we have gotten a full-length trailer for the upcoming Robert Eggers Nosferatu film. And it sent chills vibrating through my body. It looks so good. Probably my most anticipated movie of the year now, as a traditional vampire fan, as a Nosferatu fan, as a Robert Eggers fan, as a Willem Dafoe fan. We're still in the middle of the Dafoe-assance, apparently. He's just been on a streak of hits recently, and let's hope Nosferatu is just a crowning jewel on that. And I'll actually give the compliment as well that this trailer showed just enough. A rarity in modern marketing. Didn't show us final designs, there were flashes of hints of what could be monstrous effects, as well as just sensational atmosphere work through editing. And in the trailer news that the most of you are probably excited for here on the channel, and I cannot blame you, we also had our first look at Season 2 of The Last of Us, which I cannot say too much about, except no, they did not give away the big twist of this season, assuming they are staying aligned with the games, and there was a bunch of recognizable moments from the game, just adapted as well as it seemed as the first season from the first game. Cannot wait for this. I think Season 1 of The Last of Us is the show I have watched Kayla rewatch the most in our entire relationship. No, that's not true. Arcane, then Last of Us, and I'm assuming because of that, I'm going to end up watching Season 2 of Last of Us like 4 times. And I hate to end the fantasy news on a sad story, but in the final story of the day, we're going to be covering the fact that Dame Maggie Smith has passed away, with tributes coming from thousands and thousands of fans, as well as notable figures like the Prime Minister and King. The actor's passing has seemingly just hit everyone in the fantasy and just acting space beyond like a meteor. Dame Maggie Smith was also able to bring like a stern sincerity to so many of the roles that she took on in a way that I think so few could duplicate. And she also is a part of a generation of actress that is not as prevalent as a Pips, come on, once was, and it's sad to see another icon from that era pass. But before we close out this episode of Fantasy News, let's promote a book written by one of you within the Goblin Horde.
And today's Indie Pub promo is Harbinger of Justice by Andrew Watson. Pitched as, upon the black sands and beneath the ever-watching eyes, a tale of shadow magic and ancient mysteries unfold in this new, dark epic fantasy series for fans of Brandon Sanderson and Chris Wooding, with cover art by Felix Ortiz. In the desert city of Yontar, Nya cares for her sick mother. But when Nya is arrested, her mother's death is all but certain, unless Nya joins a secret project that promises her freedom, if she survives. Rai, a mercenary, has a shadow dark enough for two. In his quest to discover the nature of the creature living in his shadow, Rai collides with old friends and new enemies, stumbling into an ancient mystery that could mean the end of the world as they know it. All the while, a darkness stirs and rebellion threatens, helmed by a man who promises justice will reign. Check it out in the links down below.
But this has just been your latest episode of Fantasy News. If you'd like to submit a story for me to cover next week, just join the Discord server, go to the Fantasy News channel and post it on there. And thank you all so much for sticking around while my life is chaos and we're forced to move and all this crazy stuff. I can just say I've never been happier. I gave the woman of my heart the ring that was meant for her, and she said yes, and everything just feels like it's finally fallen into place. And oh, she will actually be mad at me if I do not plug one last time at the end. This video is brought to you by her merch line that she designed. If you want to get roasty toasty, if you want to be an undead reader, go ahead and check it out at danielbgreen.com. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And I'm very excited to say that hopefully within a year, I'll be calling her Kayla Green. Bye! Peace.